What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be reviewing and talking about a very beautiful piece of gear. It is Lomography's new Petzval 80.5mm 1.9 Mark II lens. Before I do get into this review, I do want to say that everything I say in this video is completely my opinion. Lomography did not pay me nor tell me to only say positive things. They were completely open to the fact that I might speak about negatives and positive things when it came to this lens. So once again, completely my opinion, and thanks so much Lomography for giving me the opportunity to review this lens. That being said, I do want to give a bit of a backstory to Petzval lenses. The Petzval lens was first created by Joseph Petzval back in the 1800s. His goal was to create a lens that was basically fast enough to shoot portraits without having to have your subject sit there for a minute and stay still for a portrait. He was able to cut that time by a marginal amount. If you ever look at old portraits from the 1800s, you'll see that a lot of them introduce a lot of motion blur because people would have to sit there for upwards to a minute, possibly more, for a portrait, which, if you think about it nowadays, is insane to take an exposure for that long, right? So he basically invented the 160mm 3.6 lens back then, which allowed for portraits to be taken for a lot shorter times. What exposure time that might have been, I'm guessing it might have been maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds, I'm not entirely sure, but that's basically where Petzval lenses derive from. So with all that geekiness out the way, I don't want to get too nerdy into that aspect of photography. If you're interested in that, you could probably research it yourself. I do want to talk about this lens, basically run down what this lens is about. This particular copy is the brass version. They're gonna have, I believe, 3 different copies of this one. This is the basic edition brass. They have a brass one, they have an aluminum black, and then they have a brass black, which I believe is just brass, but it's painted black, and as it wears down, you start to see the brass underneath it, which sounds really cool. And then they're introducing a 4th version, which is a black bokeh control version, which allows you to control the bokeh in the background in the sense of how swirly it is. That's the only difference between the basic edition and the advanced one that they're coming out with, the bokeh control one. They all come with these plates, 4 plates, different shapes. Hopefully you can see it on camera. One is a heart, one is a diamond, one is a star, and one is just a standard circle. These manipulate what your bokeh in the background looks like, your out of focus areas. These play very well with background lights. This is when you'll see it shine the most. If you take a picture of a subject and the background has like street lights or building lights, it'll look really nice with it. And if you want to know how to put it in, there's a slot right here where you just basically slide it in. When you put it in, you just have to make sure you press down on it. And if you look through the lens, you should be able to see it. Now, I'm not sure if the camera is picking it up, but that's basically how that works. So getting into the lens, it is a completely manual focus lens. Again, you control the aperture. The aperture goes from f1.9 to f16. I will say, when you have a lens like this, it kind of, shooting it anywhere other than 1.9 defeats the purpose of owning a lens like this, because you get the characteristics of Petzval lenses by shooting them wide open. You get characteristics of shooting vintage lenses in general by shooting them wide open. That's when the soft focus appears, which is what you're basically going for if you're shooting with one of these lenses, is those sort of characteristics, the distorted bokeh in the back, the soft, beautiful focus, which is, in my opinion, very great for portraits. I usually use a 56mm 1.2 lens, and I find that it's very sharp, even wide open, which is not a bad thing, but I find that sometimes I have to put a diffuser in front of the lens because I don't want the portraits to be that sharp. When it comes to this lens, you do not have to do that. It naturally gives you a soft focus, but not so soft that it looks like it's not in focus, but soft enough that like the skin of your subject is very soft. So it's very great for portraits. It's good for, this is pretty much what this lens is for. I'm not gonna say that you should get this to use it for landscapes, or you should get it to use it for product photography. That being said, this lens does focus very close. This is a Canon EF mount. This specific one I used on a Fuji X Pro 2. So I had to get an adapter for that. Let me just show you that. This is the adapter that I got from B&H. I just mounted that on there, and then you turn it and you're able to shoot it in an X Pro 2. I do know the X Pro 2 is a crop sensor, and I know a lot of people probably would prefer to know what it would perform like in a full frame body. I will tell you that I did take a few shots with this lens in a Canon 6D full frame sensor, and to be completely honest, there is no difference between shooting this in a cropped sensor and a full frame sensor. The results you get are pretty much the same. I noticed no difference. You still get the same background blur distortion. The bokeh effects that you get from inserting these plates look exactly the same. In fact, most of the shots that I'll be showing you are of this lens on an X Pro 2. So yeah, there's completely no difference when it comes to shooting this on a full frame or a crop sensor. Both perform great, both are beautiful. I do advise that if you do shoot this on digital, to turn on focus peaking and to take your time. When it comes to using a lens like this, it really slows you down and brings it back to basics of taking your time when you take a photograph, which I think is very important in portraiture work nowadays. There's too much rush that happens. Sometimes people rush to take the shot, and I feel like if you just slow down, you take your time, you set your aperture, you focus slowly, you frame everything correctly. That's the beauty and the art of taking a portrait, in my opinion. So I think this lens brings it back to basics. I do love this lens. If you're interested in getting one, I think they're not out yet, but you can back them right now on Kickstarter. I'll put that link in the description. The price for this is going to be, when it releases, again, I'm not sure. I think it's coming out summer 2020, I believe. But you can back them right now. And the prices for this specific one is $449. Again, this is the basic edition. And the price for the bokeh control, that's the one that allows you to control the intensity of the background distortion. That one is going to be $549, and that one only comes in black for now, as far as I'm concerned. This one comes in the 3 finishes that I mentioned. This is a beautiful lens. I do think I might at some point grab one myself, just because I did like how it performed in the field. One thing I will say about the performance, I did have a small issue shooting it in direct sunlight. The images appeared softer as like sunlight was hitting the subject. The portrait had a soft gaze. So I would say the best lighting to shoot this lens in would be overcast days, not sunny. Definitely when there's more, which is basically what I like shooting my portraits in, is when it's cloudy outside, just because it's like a nice big soft box in the sky. So that's the only issue I had with this lens. It wasn't a large issue. It wasn't that, the image wasn't so soft, but I do prefer shooting it in basically overcast days. So this lens comes in 2 mounts. It comes in a Canon EF and a Nikon, whatever mount that is, their digital mount. So if you want to shoot this on anything other than those mounts, you would have to get some sort of adapter. I know people are shooting them in film bodies, and like, you know, I shoot it in a Fuji body, and you probably shoot it in a Sony body would be great. So yeah, you could pretty much put this on any body with the right adapter. Before getting the lens, you should probably look to see if they make the adapter that you need for your specific body, whatever you plan on shooting this with. So that pretty much wraps up my review on the Petzval 80.5mm Mark II lens. Once again, I want to say thank you to Lomography for letting me borrow this lens. It was very fun to play with. If you yourself have any questions about the lens, anything that I might have missed, please feel free to ask. I will respond promptly. There might be some things that I might have missed. I am trying to wrap up this review on time and return the lens and move on to other things. So that being said, feel free to ask. If I missed anything, thanks again for watching. Please make sure to subscribe and like this video. Thanks again. Peace.